Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameCast review. I'm Mark, and today I'll be reviewing Assassin's Creed Origins, now available for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. It's no secret that I don't particularly like Assassin's Creed or Ubisoft. The franchise has had some incredible highs, but more often than not it has had some terrible lows. In the months leading up to its release, I had the same attitude towards Origins. I felt like it'd be more of the same, and an extra year of development wouldn't change anything. The combat would still be a clunky, easier version of the Batman Arkham games, and the climbing would still be messy as you cling to all the wrong objects. It was safe to say I had a chip on my shoulder when it came to this franchise, so I picked up the latest game thinking that it would be more of what I was used to. But much to my surprise, Assassin's Creed Origins actually shows some promise and improvement. The free running and climbing has been tweaked, the general movement has been expanded, the stealth has been opened up, and the combat has been completely revised. First off, the game world is huge. It reminds me more of the very first Assassin's Creed than any of the others. Towns and cities are divided by great expanses of land, and a majority of the buildings are quite low to the ground. Thus, while the general climbing mechanics remain mostly unchanged, their application is what matters. Instead of climbing large buildings and running across rooftops, you'll find yourself riding a camel through the desert or climbing a cliff to get a better view of an area. In this way, it feels a lot like Breath of the Wild, as you're encouraged to find your own way throughout the game world. Furthermore, instead of your traditional eagle vision that highlights enemies and important items, instead you have an actual eagle named Senu. Senu can fly through the sky, acting as your new minimap, highlighting enemies, areas of interest, and just about anything else. Senu gives you a new perspective as you plot out an attack or explore a new area. It adds a very natural layer to exploration, and I never found myself wanting a minimap. On your travels, you'll come across a small ecosystem of docile and hungry beasts. These can be hunted for materials that can be used to upgrade a few of your tools and armor. It feels more like a Tomb Raider game than Assassin's Creed, and it's better for it. Speaking of Tomb Raider, the bow mechanics here feel very natural. Lining up the perfect shot and slowly taking down your target is good fun. However, swapping out bows and upgrading your skills takes this a step further. There are 4 distinct bow types in the game, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Hunting bows, for example, are mid-range, chargeable bows that can deal decent damage. Light bows have low damage but a high fire rate. Warrior bows release a spread shot of arrows, and the Predator bow has high damage and accuracy but a small quiver. By upgrading your tools and skills, you can gain new abilities like slow motion aiming while falling, extra aim time when silently taking out foes, and remote control arrows to ensure you get a headshot. Melee combat has also received a much needed boost. Instead of the simple dodge counter-strike format of the previous entries, we have something a little closer to Dark Souls. I say it's close to the Souls series because your light and heavy strikes are mapped to the right bumper and trigger buttons, and your shield is tied to the left bumper. Even the lock-on camera has a Souls vibe in the way that it focuses the action and movement. After gaining a few combat skills, you'll also be able to parry strikes, break guards, and punish opponents. While it's nowhere near as difficult as Souls combat, the changes were very welcome to the traditional Assassin's format. There are multiple weapon types, each with their own basic combos and ranges, as well as adrenaline abilities that deal heavy damage to foes or give you a bit of breathing room. Along your travels, you'll come across plenty of gear of varying rarity. The rarer the gear, the better the bonus skills, such as bonus critical damage or instant charge attacks. Most gear can be broken down for materials, with the higher rarity items yielding the best results. There's also an abundance of side quests in Origins that try to mimic the Witcher style of storytelling. While the writing isn't as good, it was nice to have a cinematic feel to many smaller objectives, making each side quest feel a little more important than just a general fetch quest or riddle. There are also timed online and community events like avenging fallen players, sharing photos, daily quests, and high-level battles with gods. Assassin's Creed Origins is set well before the other mainline Assassin's Creed games, hence the name. You play as Bayek, a Magi protector who is out for revenge against those that pull the strings from behind Egypt's throne. It's nothing new for the series, as revenge is often the driving force for these games, but I found the general flow of the narrative to be inconsistent. It jumps around early on intentionally, then shifts into one big hit list of villains, and then turns into one long chain of set pieces, with awkward pacing and a bit of a muted ending. While I don't really have a problem with the actual finale, as it tried its best to tie into actual historical events, I just feel like the story's pacing felt messy as it built to that point. Bayek as a character can be a little inconsistent as well, and I feel that was mainly due to the mix of lighter side quests and serious main quests. Fortunately, the spiritual elements and final moments of each target are really well done, and are highlights during the main narrative. Late BCE Egypt has been lovingly created as a sprawling open world with plenty to see and do. It's a little overwhelming at first seeing just how large everything is, but it is relatively easy to travel around thanks to some convenient fast travel spots and mounts. It gives you a great sense of scale and distance when you travel halfway across the game world and can still spot the Great Pyramids of Giza. The clash of different cultures is good too, with a mix between Egyptian, Roman and Greek influences throughout the locations and people. However, like many other entries in the series, Origins can be a little inconsistent visually. Some textures and small details are incredible, like the flow of Bayek's robes or the ripples of the water. Then there are the small but plentiful issues like mismatched animations, awkward load screens and strange AI actions. The glitches are in a similar situation, with most being funny, but there were a few that broke the experience, like multiple horses spawning all at once in the same location, NPCs locking in place and Bayek freezing in motion. The game also suffers from a few framerate drops in the middle of combat, which can be frustrating later in the game. While most character models are good, I found the in-engine cutscenes a bit annoying as the mouth movements rarely matched up. Bayek with a hood on and a clean-shaven head also looks like one of the most generic characters this series has ever spawned. Fortunately, you can toggle the hood and even add a beard and hair, which gives some much-needed character. The voice work is quite good and Bayek sounds believable as an angry assassin working through his hit list. His back and forth with his lover Aya provided a good break for him as well. The soundtrack matches the grander nature of the environment well, although I found it hard to tell if I was still in combat a few times as the battle song continued to play or took some time to fade out. While Assassin's Creed Origins tries its best to copy already established formulas, it still doesn't quite carve out its own gameplay identity. It's on the right track though, as this is a huge departure from the previous entries. I feel that Assassin's Creed is much better suited to an action RPG than a general open world action adventure. I think this is the first real step forward we've seen for the franchise in some time, and I hope this way of thinking will stay. I'm also very hopeful that we'll continue to steer clear from the yearly releases, as that will just hurt the franchise all over again. While it did start to drag on a bit towards the end and I still suffered from sandbox fatigue, I can still admit that I had fun with the game. I didn't expect it to really change, but I'm glad it did. So for that, I'd say Assassin's Creed Origins is probably worth a buy, especially if you were waiting for the franchise to change like I was. I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to stick around at GameCast for more great gaming content. If you'd like to see more from me, you can find me over at Arisen Culture and right here at GameCast as part of the review team. Thanks for watching, bye!